Hello, so I think we have more people joined in already, and we can get started. So for the next session, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Krishnan Kannan, who is the head of cloud economics at Amazon Web Services. He's here with us to share his thoughts on how to transform your business at lower cost. So, Krishnan, we have given you the control. Now you can share your presentation and get started. Thank you.
Awesome. Can you hear me clearly?
We can.
Okay, thanks a lot. And good afternoon, everyone, wherever you're joined from. As introduced by the organizer, Swati. My name is Krishnan. I work for the cloud division of Amazon. Work for an organization which in India is known as Amazon Internet Services, which is representing AWS in India. And today I'm going to talk about how enterprises and organizations can transform their business at lower cost by moving to technology like cloud. I manage the cloud economics function. What cloud economics is something which we will unravel in the course of next 45 minutes. So I have a lot of content to share with you. So let's get going. The agenda for today is around a little bit of background around the AWS differentiation, how AWS is different from other cloud service provider, as well as how AWS is different from other provider of IT or a hosting or a data center provider, and why the economics of the cloud is very different than how enterprises as well as organizations have been operating for quite some time. And what are the benefit categories which you can quantify some of those benefits to build a business case. We'll talk about a live case study of customer who has quantified some of those business value beyond just the cost benefits. And how do you turn the business case into reality? And maybe you would want to be in a similar situation, building a business case for your organization, and how Amazon can help you achieve that. And also a future path of how cost optimization becomes the key, which is a continuous programmatic approach within AWS scheme of things as to how you can optimize the cost. But before that, I just want to take a step back in terms of relating the entire technology of cloud to a situation of a power grid. Think about the industrial revolution which modernized our manufacturing processes. Back then, businesses had their own generators to power the buildings with electricity. This was great innovation, but it took time to get the generators up and running, and ultimately business were responsible to maintain those pieces of equipment. And when power grid was developed, the resources already procured by the company and through a fee, it allowed the businesses to tap into the power grid and gain the access to the electricity that was needed. And it allowed the customers also to access any additional enhancements without any significant investment in terms of a capital expenditure. And if you fast forward that to the 20th century, where the entire concept of data centers as well as hosting became relevant, the company started building their own data centers to run the businesses. This again, like power, required in the early stages of around the industry revolution, required a lot of capital investment, lengthy procurement cycle, as well as placed the responsibility of creating and running. The onus was on the companies to maintain everything, and that resulted in business having a tough time keeping up with the new technology upgrade, new innovation, advancement, and they felt that they were not agile enough to respond to customer needs and the changes in market. With advent of technologies like cloud, companies are able to host their applications, mission critical workloads, and special projects on the infrastructure, which is built and managed by a third party provider. This allows companies to avoid large upfront hardware investments and only pay for what they use, similar to how we are consuming power in our residence as well as in our commercial establishments. And what benefit customers got in terms of functionality upgrade and access to a platform, and also a lot of feature upgrade which otherwise would have taken effort as well as cost, was the benefits are significant. So, having said that context, let's try to understand the AWS global infrastructure as well as how we differentiate from others. Uh, Basically, on the 7 parameters which are mentioned on this particular slide, AWS tries to differentiate from other service providers, which include cloud service providers, as well as other providers, which include the traditional hosting as well as managed hosting providers. Security. Security is a shared responsibility in AWS, where AWS manages the infrastructure and the customer manages the application that they are hosting in the Amazon platform. And AWS provides a fine-grained control. The complete control and the access is with the customer the moment they start creating an account, which means you can bring in your own set of policies, firewall policies, or you want to encrypt some of the data, you could do that. And the host of security feature, which you have been used to in your earlier environment, can be adopted in the cloud. So nothing changes as far as the security, the way you have been using it in the traditional environment is concerned once you move to the cloud. In fact, many customers have said that the security positioning has only become better once they have moved to the cloud. The service breadth and depth in terms of 100 plus services to support any cloud workload. I'm not going to be running in terms of services. If you're keen, I'll connect you with some of the people who can, come down to your organization and propose, or we can always talk online or over the phone. The third differentiation is AWS Cloud has been there since 2006, when many players did not even envision that this would be a huge market opportunity. And today AWS is an 18.5 billion net run rate annually, and experience of managing 1 million plus customers, active customers in the platform, which doesn't include Amazon as a .com, which is also one of the customers of AWS, has been tremendous. And experience is the only thing which teaches a person how evolved he is, as well as how well you would have managed the inefficiencies, as well as the brought about the operational excellence. So the experience is one of the important things which sets AWS apart. We say internally that there's no compression algorithm to experience. Experience with customers, experience of responding to customers is very, very important to any business. The global footprint, the global coverage also helps a lot of organizations either to expand to the new region, as well as in terms of if you want to deploy in some regions which you would have not probably thought about, or you would have thought about building an infrastructure, you could quickly deploy on AWS. And tomorrow, if you can expand further, or if you want to roll back because you might not have made the right decision, it's that much easy in cloud in terms of the expansion as well as pullback. The entire concept of how the artificial intelligence or AI is panning out in the market in terms of some of the services around speech, text, videos, voice, is all completely integrated on AWS. We have released a lot of new AI features as of last week in our annual customer event called reInvent, and that is something which one should go and visit our AWS portal to see what are the new features available, which comes at a fraction of a cost than the customer would have built on their own platform. The entire ecosystem of partners in terms of marketplace products. A marketplace is an offering where you would go and buy the software which you would have traditionally bought from the OEM by paying an upfront cost. Here you can tap into some same products as a pay-as-you-go or pay-for-month basis, and not locked down to the long-term commitments when you are not sure about the usability of the application. Lastly, the Gartner Magic Quadrant in 2017 again recognized AWS as a clear leader for the cloud infrastructure as service worldwide, and in terms of the nearest competition as well as all the players put together, AWS was significantly ahead of them. This is how our infrastructure globally looks like in terms of the 16 regions and 44 availability zone and 107 edge locations. The edge locations are the content delivery locations across the globe. In India, we have 5 locations across Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, and Kolkata. And we are also, continuously expanding the footprint across other locations globally, as well as as and when we are ready to launch more locations in India, we'll keep you informed. Now let's come to the main theme of the topic in terms of the transforming the business and the cloud economics. Why the cloud economics is different. Now, many people come say that the pay as you go as well as the ability to quickly deploy are quite compelling. But if you really take a close look at in terms of operation, if you have been with the platform for 1 year and the kind of benefit you would have got, let's compare again with the traditional infrastructure, right? The blue line that you see here are the traditional infrastructure, whereas the dotted line, which is going with an arrow, is a predicted demand. Now, the red line is an actual demand, which means you have over provisioned irrespective of what was the actual demand. And once you're bought in the traditional environment, you cannot roll it back. So the gap that is between this red line, which is the actual demand, and the traditional hardware is an opportunity cost, which you have incurred. So you can't do much. You can't. Nobody is going to buy back at the point of time, as well as there is no returning back to the OEM for any refund. And when the demand is high and you are not able to meet that demand, that's a lost opportunity, which means you are not able to meet the customer's requisition. You are losing business to your competitors. And once you lose a business to the competitor, the chances are that the same customers might come back to you is always iffy. Then an automated virtualization, which in cloud takes care of all these factor of opportunity cost as well as lost opportunity, which means you don't spend, you just fine tune your application in such a way that it can auto scale as well as scale up and scale down, helps you to make that predictions, as well as helps you to focus on business more than focusing on the traditional infrastructure. Let's look at some of the pricing basics of AWS in terms of how the pricing is structured. The 6 underlying principles of AWS in terms of pricing are: it's completely a no upfront investment. We do not have any upfront capital investment in our whole scheme of things. It's all no upfront investment, and it's a pay as you go. When you are absolutely sure that you are going to be consuming this, then you can also go and reserve the capacity and get substantial discount depending on the term that you reserve, 1 year or 3 years. Even there you have discount structure available for all upfront payment, for partial upfront payment, or for a no upfront payment, which means every month you will still keep paying that. Then when you grow more, you also leverage on a lot of these discount and the things which are available. All the pricing is transparent in AWS. You can find the pricing on the portal, and what pricing you will get is what the person who's known to you or next door neighbor would be getting the same price. Pay per use. So if you use it and you don't want to use it, you're not going to get long-term. It's not going to have a long-term implication. You can terminate that particular job and then move ahead, and you would have spent few $100s. Then, as AWS keeps growing, you also pay less. How this happens is what I'm going to show in a couple of slides later. There is an approach, and there is something called pricing flywheel, which I would like to take it, but I will probably tell more detail about how customers can pay less when AWS grows. Now, as I said, we have in the compute, which we call it as EC2 or RDS database service, which is relation database service, and a couple of other services. We have something called a reserved pricing model, where instead of on-demand pricing, you can go and reserve capacity and you can get substantial discount. There is also some interesting model in the compute the services called spot instances, which allows you to bid for a capacity at a substantial reduced price or whatever price you want to bid for it. And if it is acceptable, Amazon will allow the infrastructure to be provisioned, provided the fact that you should not get outbid by somebody else. If that happens, you are either willing to match the price or you are willing to forego the infrastructure. It's a very interesting model. There's a lot of compelling use cases which Spot is a right solution for that. And happy to chat more if you are keen. And I'll be sharing my email ID at the end. You can reach out to me. In the interest of time, I just since I anyway explained this particular slide, I would like to move ahead and talk about the benefits of the cloud. Now, broadly, we categorize the benefit categories of the cloud under 5 headings, which is business agility, operational resilience, the cost avoidance, workforce productivity, and operational cost. Now, the business agility is obviously, I'll take 1 point each in every heading. Is obviously how quickly you can go to the market and reduce the time to the market. In operational resilience, you talk about how you can make your infrastructure so resilient that you are not, subjecting it to any downtime or outages, which can actually directly impact your margins. From a cost avoidance perspective, you're eliminating a procedure or a method to keep buying infrastructure and keep maintaining those infrastructure, which means your focus is around innovation and how do you retire those technical debt, which one gathers over a period of time. And in terms of workforce productivity, how you can make your staff much more efficient by leading into automation, by automating your entire environment, so that the staff, IT staff, which is supposed to create innovation as well as they're supposed to lead to innovation, are able to actually do that rather than doing the mundane task of maintaining the hardware and the infrastructure and then not thinking about innovation. Or if they are thinking about innovation, they don't find the right place to be there, and hence they move ahead and look for a challenging environment. How you can make life interesting for some of those technical folks who are have an aspiration to build innovation and new technologies to be leveraged by the organization. Lastly, the operational cost, which means if you have a unit price of infrastructure which is available to everybody, so there is generally what we see is a transparency across the organization to adopt and use and consume the services judiciously. The transparency always leads to a lean mindset. When you are aware about something, you are more conscious about that. So one such company, which is part of GE Worldwide, which is GE Oil and Gas, when they moved their 8 data centers to AWS Cloud, by the way, GE is moving around 9,000 apps to AWS Cloud, and GE released a press, GE Group, released a press article 2 months back in terms of how their experience of moving the 2,000 to 3,000 apps which they have done so far has been with AWS. And GE Oil and Gas moved substantial part of that in last year, 2016 April, when they had presented this particular slide. They say that by on the business agility, they were able to deliver the application 77 times faster than they were able to deliver on the existing infrastructure. Their P1 P0 incident was reduced to 98%, which means they were able to manage the entire and they were able to focus on the innovation, because this got reduced. They never used to get into the routine task on a daily basis of coordinating with different set of people. All they had was Amazon, which was taking care of the infrastructure, just managing and hosting, and then they had an application which was managed by the team. Previously, there were 4 or 5 different people who were managing different set of infrastructure as well as application, and that really, was a challenge. On the workforce productivity, because of the fact that the 98% reduction in the daily day-to-day incident, day-to-day ticketing and escalations reduced, they were able to build 15 automated bots in their entire environment, right? And these are all internal facing bots, which means they were able to build innovation. They were able to make the productivity of the entire organization much faster than running on a traditional environment. They completed, they created 15 cloud services. They did some 8 cloud migration till last April. That was when this was presented. The last part is the most interesting. While they reduced a lot of infrastructure, which was probably optimized on AWS, they also realized that they were running out of some 300 apps they were running. They realized that 50 applications were something which they had to decommission, which means they had to retire those applications because nobody was using it, and they were still running on the on-premises because they had to support the users. And by doing that, they were able to save 14 million year-on-year savings, and the savings only increased when they migrated close to 2,000 apps at the end of the year. So GE Oil and Gas is one of the substantial portion of the GE business. But that doesn't end with the GE, right? In terms of the benefits that customers have got. We have many customers who have got benefits under each heading. On agility, if I take, we have a lot of companies like Alcatel-Lucent, we have companies like APJ, which is based out of Noida, we have companies like, Unilever, which were able to launch a lot of new products, bring in a lot of innovation. APJs felt they were able to reduce the R&D and software R&D time by 80%, and that made their life much more easier. The companies like Johnson & Johnson, they were able to deliver and increase the productivity of their employees by deploying Amazon Workspaces, which is the VDI on cloud, or the Sage, which was able to deliver, you know, the configuration time in terms of 500 hours per year of server configuration time was saved. Or Novartis, which was able to reduce the computational chemistry of 39 years into just 9 hours, right? And this cost saving was something which was experienced by each and every one of the person. At the same time, Kellogg's, which was migrating the SAP from Oracle to AWS, they were able to do with zero unplanned downtime across 5 countries in terms of migration. The seamless migration of this kind of a huge infrastructure was never believed that they would do in their own existing environment. So, if I look at the cloud benefit categories across the organizational hierarchy, normally the technology decision in an organization are traditionally taken by the IT team or the CIO team, as we know. But more and more business decision makers are coming into the fray, in terms of decision making, because the IT is having synergy with digital, as well as with the advent of AI, with the advent of business applications coming into the picture. The business users are also taking a lot of technology decisions, and hence it's important that to understand what are the benefits which are derived by which particular executive. So we see these two benefits largely under the director of IT, which is TCO and resource efficiencies. But as you move up the benefit in terms of the chain of benefits, application deployment in many organizations are now run by the P&L owners or the business heads, especially companies like insurance companies or banking, where digital is playing a very big role. The application deployment or owners of the application are coming in the forefront and taking a lot of technology decisions. What is essence for them is time, because they are competing in a very tough market and they want to make sure they're able to establish the credibility of the application at a faster time, and also making sure that they're able to impress the audience. But as it keeps going higher, risk mitigation, it goes beyond IT, it goes beyond business. It's now with the CISO or the COO, Chief Operating Officer, or the Chief Financial Officer. Because if you have, say, for example, if you have a planned downtime, which is still able to manage, but you have unplanned downtime, it can impact your application. And imagine if it is an application like SAP or any application which generates revenue, it can have direct impact on the margin. Where there is a direct impact on the margin, the CFO comes into the picture and says, oh, we need to reevaluate some of those. So risk mitigation is important aspect. The CISO or the compliance or the risk officer typically we see in the financial services, for him the important thing is when a data retention or getting hold of the data at a quick possible time in an event of downtime is more important. So he needs to make sure how infrastructure is resilient enough to give that feature. So risk mitigation is one of the important aspects. The global expansion, now it definitely moves beyond the CEO level. It goes to the CFO or the CEO level, because they are the ones who are looking to expand to new geography. Obviously, there will be other stakeholders who will be involved at a later date. But from a vision perspective, these are the two people who are responsible. That okay, if they acquire a company or if they expand to a newer geography, what they should be doing in terms of technology, in terms of people, in terms of processes. Lastly, mergers and acquisition or divestitures. When you acquire a company or you divest a company, how cloud plays an important role. So let's spend some 10-20 seconds on each of the factors. Maybe I'll like to spend more time on TCO than on the other, given the time constraint. But then, yeah, let's get going. So the number one priority is the TCO, and or total cost of ownership. And there is a methodology that we follow at AWS in terms of how do we calculate the TCO between the traditional data center and co-location and comparing it with AWS. So this is how we define TCO in terms of comparative total cost of ownership analysis, acquisition and operating cost for running an infrastructure environment end-to-end on premises versus how it will look in AWS. So it's used under different scenarios. One of the popular scenario is number one, which is customer says, I have infrastructure which is already running, and I want you to compare this with how it will go in AWS, and so that I can start preparing a business case. But this is nothing new for us. We have been, for years, last 11 years, we have been helping customers to lower the TCO when they are already on our platform. We do it in these four ways. One, by moving to the cloud, the customers realize that they can optimize the entire environment basis the reports that we share, basis the utilization that we share. The customers feel they can run efficiently on an environment, on our network or the infrastructure. Now, one of the studies conducted by IDC said that customers would have spent 63.4% more on an average on on-prem location than on AWS. The second reason is the 62 price reductions we have done in last 11 years also helps us to build an economies of scale and helps us to continuously lower the cost. How we lower the cost is I'm going to talk exactly after 2 slides. The different pricing model available for customers in terms of on-demand, in terms of reserved, in terms of spot. And as you grow bigger, you can save money by moving to a tier-based pricing. The genesis of entire the pricing as well as the information that we provide for customers to take decision is based on this quote which Jeff Bezos shared with Harvard Business Review. And he said, we don't make money when we sell things. We make money when we help customers make those purchase decisions. Right? And it's every decision which we help customers to either save money on the AWS or scale on AWS to meet their business requirement is all done by way of providing accurate information and by working very close with customers. And this was the pricing flywheel that I was talking. It's very interesting because it keeps doing the circle, and once we achieve the efficiencies, we are able to get the result which is lowering the price. So it goes like this: when you have more customers in our platform, we need more. We get more AWS usage, and when you have more AWS usage, you need to provision more infrastructure. And when you provision more infrastructure, the economies of scale becomes better. The infrastructure cost comes down because you're able to optimize by working with newer vendors, newer OEMs, as well as from an economies of scale itself, and that leads to the reduced price. When we reduce the price, or we find that our price has gone down, we pass on the benefits to the customers. And this has been done 62 times in the last 11 years in terms of the price reductions. And we'll continue to do more as we keep achieving the economies of scale. A very interesting insights by Gartner, McKinsey, and Uptime Institutes have stated that data centers are on an average only 50% utilized, even if it could be on a sort of a virtualized environment. By and large. Now, part of this is also because the way the entire application stack in an organization is. It can be fluctuating, it can be spiky, it can be part-time, it can be cyclical, or a seasonal one. Now, whichever is the case, the organization still have to meet the peak load requirement of the workload. And when they do that, they start either running out of space or they start over provisioning, and that's where they get into a situation called accumulation of technical debt. Before we go to the technical debt, I just wanted to give you this particular consideration. So when anyone is comparing against the TCO of existing locations or existing infrastructure to AWS, we compare against 4 different costs, which include server, storage cost, network cost, IT labor cost. The extras are, let's keep it extras. And on the right hand side, business value, let's keep it as it is. At this point of time, I'm not going to touch. But if you see the first two, the three, apart from the hardware cost or the software cost, you also have facilities cost. Many companies forget to take the facilities cost because one, they don't have visibility. Second, they feel that it comes without any cost, which may not be true. Maybe in the rarest of the rare cases, but in most of the cases, the power, space, cooling is all a cost that keeps getting added. Now, power is definitely not going to come free of cost. It could be shared with the facility, but if you are there in the captive facility where you also having seating spaces for your employees as well as data center, you can be rest assured that 80% of the cost of the power is going to go to keep the lights on. Hello, can you hear me?
Sure, we can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Krishnan, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
I got lost. The audio connection dropped. So, okay, great. So, coming back to that, in terms of the capacity, which keeps getting accumulated and the utilization keeps getting low. So, the green shade that you see is what we call it as a technical debt, because that is unused capacity, that is a wasted capacity which keeps accumulating because one has to provision for peak, and the more the provision for the peak, the next time they're not sure whether they will meet the requirement or not. If they're not meeting the requirement, this keeps adding here, and then when they're not doing, they also keep buying new infrastructure, which again doesn't solve any purpose. Cloud exactly gives you an opportunity to retire this portion as well as retire this portion of the infrastructure. So the commercial levers which are available to all the customers to drive down the cost. So when I do a lot of TCO analysis or the total cost of ownership analysis with customers. I ensure I ask what are the peak RAM and the peak CPU utilization, because we don't have to buy for the year 5 in the year 1 in cloud. You buy for what you need, right? And second is, if you have workload which are running as a test and development, which are going to be used only from Monday to Friday 8 to 8, that's actually 36% of the usage. Cloud gives you the option to start, stop, and only keep it on for a certain period of time. Third is leveraging the unit price or leveraging the pricing methodology in AWS, like on demand, reserved, and spot. Reserved, the basic thumb rule is 21 hours a day or 21 days a month, it should be moving to a reserved instances platform. Now, if you do that, there is an organization which is an airline company operating out of APAC. A lift and shift approach. And by doing the lift and shift approach, they were able to move their on-premises to AWS cloud by doing right sizing, by doing the one I shared earlier in the previous slide, by doing elasticity and by doing the right pricing. So the real benefit they got was after they moved to cloud, which means they were able to do continuous right sizing, they were able to do storage optimization. They reached a stage where they called it optimized lift and shift. Imagine this was close to 28% saving, and they got additional 10% saving here. The real benefit is what they got here in terms of measuring, monitoring the usage, which through the reports which AWS continues to provide, called cost and usage report or the cost explorer, and building serverless architecture, which means depending on services rather than building on it by taking a server. Serverless architecture is also another way where customers are able to reduce cost, and by implementing managed services where they're able to efficiently use the AWS resources to manage the environment, there is something called a re-platformed AWS optimized, where they got further 17% benefit. So 27% here, 10% here, and 17% here. So that is the kind of additional optimization which goes through when you start looking at re-platforming. The replatforming doesn't mean just complete code change and just build from the scratch. It also means how you are able to plug in some of the services, how you're making some of your application cloud ready as well as suitable for some of the features like auto scaling and etc. Some of the global customers as an example for who have benefited from on the TCO. So moving on to the second benefit, which is resource efficiencies. Now, when I mean resource efficiencies, nowhere we are mentioning that you need to uh, you know start downsizing your resources. It only means how you efficiently manage the resources so that they are able to build innovation, they are able to build next gen or the next big application that could take the organization from wherever they are to a different level. So common the resources like database administrator or the storage specialist needs to be managed efficiently, and organization have to start thinking that how within the existing resource they will allocate a resource who can build or integrate an AI platform into their application, or build a machine learning algorithm, or even build an analytics offering or analytics dashboard, which will help a lot of business users to visualize some of those number crunching that an organization would like to do, because a lot of things are becoming it's becoming it's dependent on time, and time is the essence. uh, I like to take here the example of the pharma company. By moving to the cloud, they were able to bring in efficiency in terms of the compute related function, exactly the way we saw in that example of airline company, where they were able to deploy serverless, they were able to deploy function as a service like Lambda, AWS Lambda, which allowed them to uh, invoke a compute only when the code is generated as well as the job is need to be fired. And then once the request is being made, the compute infrastructure used to die down, and then they were able to utilize very efficiently. Second is improvement in application development function, and both they got huge benefit around those two. Third is accelerating application deployment. Think as DevOps as a first step in terms of time to deploy and deployment frequencies. So the example I want to give here is GE Aviation, which was able to reduce the build cycle from 4 days to hours. They were also able to improve the speed to market by 240%, and 5x times they were able to deliver the customer functionality faster. The risk mitigation, there's a company by name Seco in Singapore, which used to be in UK, and this is a published case study. You can always go and visit that. So what they said was, by moving to the cloud, they were able to reduce the impact or the nature of the concern around the data recovery, because they built it around the high availability architecture. Previously, in the event of power failure or natural disaster, when the DR was invoked, they were not able to get the data recovery faster. And they were able to build a lot of security features using some services like IAM, which is Identity and Access Management, CloudWatch, and CloudTrail. On the global expansion, the benefit here is the rapid entry into the market in terms of lower cost of expansion, as well as minimize exit cost. Though I would like to take that example, but then I would like to move ahead in the interest of time, since I have only 5 to 10 minutes left. So the last benefit or the driver is the mergers and acquisition or divestitures. The benefit here is the speed to market, faster transition time, and lower transition cost. While you make the change, while you expand, acquire a company, you need to also do transition of the new company into the your own fold, the company that is being acquired. As well as when you sell any particular business, you also need to do transition of that particular business to some other organization. So the synergies need to be built. So one such company which built the synergy in terms of while going through a M&A or rather divestiture is Hess. Hess is an oil and natural gas company based in US, and they were able to reduce transition time from 12 months to 6 months. And they were trying to sell the downstream business. In an oil, the upstream business happens to be the exploratory business, and the downstream is the fuel station and the retail segment. Okay. They wanted to divest the downstream business, and they were able to do it much quickly by ensuring the segregation. When you're acquiring a company, you're not only acquiring a company in terms of assets, in terms of buildings, in terms of the process, you're also acquiring the processes, you're also acquiring the people, and you're also acquiring the best practice. So when you do that, you need to make sure, and the same is the case for when you want to sell your business. You need to make sure you hand it over as a complete package, like the way you might be getting when you acquire a company. And the technology like cloud helps you to do that much faster than it can happen. Now, there are a lot of companies which has helped, we have helped them turn the business case into reality. Some have shut down their huge data centers which they were running across the globe and reduced to considerable extent. Like for example, News UK shortens time to market by 6 months by migrating 60% of data centers. Now, here is where I want to bring in the introduction or a little bit about the cost optimization. The cost optimization in the AWS is, as I mentioned initially, is a programmatic approach. It's basically going from what you provision to what you need. So once customers migrate to the platform, he's anyway feeling great that he's moved to the cloud platform. But it becomes our duty of Amazon team to help the customers in understanding the bills, understanding how they should be using and architecting. Because if you do the same way what you've done in the your existing setup in terms of not looking at the usage, it could be expensive, right? If you are not doing that, you need to take care of the full advantage in terms of the pricing benefits, pricing discount which Amazon provides, so that it can help you bring the total cost of ownership. So hence the 5 pillars of cost optimization. So this all we call it as the good intentions, which includes right sizing, increased elasticity, taking the storage model, which you also found in the TCO. The last one is match usage to the storage class. If your usage is 300 GB and the customer is asking for, they ask us about the HDD. So we don't go and propose an SSD solution, right? So we have to ensure that we match the storage to the class, what it's required. If it's archival storage, we have a service around Glacier. So everything changes from the traditional setup where everything is deployed on a SAN or a NAS, and when you move to cloud, it's much different. Right? So while I call the first 4 as the pillar as the good intention, the last is a mechanism. How do you monitor and measure? So as Jeff Bezos keeps mentioning, you need to have all the good intention, but if you don't have mechanism, you can't implement some of those good intentions, right? So this becomes a joint responsibility of Amazon team, or if we are working with a partner and the organization where we are working with, because we might be able to give more reports until unless the action is taken, and action is probably or suggested to be taken, we will not be able to bring the benefits to the customer, right? I like to share some of the resources. I'll allow people, I'll just stay put for 20 seconds on this particular slide before I move to the next slide in terms of some of the resources that you can leverage on the AWS YouTube page in terms of some of the cost efficiencies, as well as how you can build the cost optimization at scale, as well as how you can bring the AWS the cost efficiencies of the AWS cloud to build a business case towards. We have a lot of resources on the AWS page also in terms of the total cost of ownership and CO resource. We have a TCO calculator, which also can you can try it out at your leisure, and we have presentations available on AWS SlideShare. And if you want to reach out to me, this is my contact number, and once again, thanks a lot for listening. I'm ready for answering a couple of questions, time permitting. So I'd just request the organizers to read out the question for me.
Yeah, thanks, Krishnan. So any one of you, if you have some questions, please type it on the chat window so that we can take it up and Krishnan can answer them. So we are waiting for your questions now. Yeah, Krishnan, so we have a first question which says, what are the benefits of a SaaS partner program?
Yeah, great question. So we have a focused approach towards what we call it as a technology partner or the ISV partner program. So the benefits are one, in terms of a joint GTM and ability to connect you to different stakeholders in, within the AWS ecosystem of not only the internal team but also the access to the AWS set of customers who are looking for a similar solution. So that's a huge advantage because, as you mentioned, that we have globally 1 million plus customers using our platform. So, and in India, we already have 120,000 customers who are 120,000 active paying customers in India. So, access to some of those customers and your ability to scale. Some of the large SaaS partners here in India include likes of Nucleus, likes of Vinculum, Newgen, plenty of partners, Freshdesk, who have been leveraging the entire ecosystem and have been going. I hope it answers your question. Um, Feel free to send me a mail, and I'll happy to connect with the right stakeholders. Any other questions?
Thanks, Krishnan. So we have the second question who's asking for the slide. So for that, we will be sharing the details with you soon. Then
Yeah.
the third question, Krishnan, we have the attendee is asking. He is starting his own Android application. So he's asking whether the cloud will be better or the dedicated. And especially for AWS cloud, can he use it in low budget apps hosting?
Yeah, okay, great question. So I am not going to be touch base on the dedicated because we have already seen the inflexibility of the dedicated hosting. Now, there are many ways to achieve some of those objectives, right? So I'll first answer the last portion of the question, which is the low budget. We have initial the offering of a VPS, which is the virtual private server called Lightsail. So AWS Lightsail is one of the offering that we have for customers who want to use. It starts from $5 a month, and depending on the usage, it can go up to $91. The beauty of the Lightsail is it supports both Linux, it supports Windows. It also has the ability, as you grow bigger, you can move to the normal VMs, which is called EC2, and it can get integrated. Many customers, even large and medium and big, have also been using for, they have a lot of microsites, a lot of the smaller site. So they've been using Lightsail, and they've been able to connect through the VPC, as well as, we have load balancers also available on the Lightsail now. So those are the options that are available for customers looking for a cost-effective compute solution. As regards on the cloud from a dedicated or the, if I understood the question correctly, in terms of a dedicated server on the cloud gives you ability to run under a different scenario. If you tomorrow you find that your capacity is not meeting your requirement, you can quickly terminate and move to a next platform. Even if you have done a reservation, we have now reservations under something called a convertible reserved instance, which allows you to change the VM at any time by surrendering the existing VM and moving to the different VM across the platform. If you are running on Windows and you are tomorrow want to run on open source like Linux, you could also do that under the scenario.
Thanks, Krishnan. We do have some more questions, so I'll quickly go through them. The next question says, do we have any extra benefits for non-profit organizations?
So the team that I am in, I manage the commercial sales. The non-profit organization or the public sector, we have a different teams. Happy to connect you with them, but then I don't. I don't think we have anything around different pricing for the non-profit. The pricing is very transparent in AWS. I said we do run a lot of this startup incubation program together with the venture capitalist funded organizations, which is available as a program called Activate. And these are the information which you can find it on our portal. And if you are one of those early stage startups who are being funded by venture capitalist or some incubation as part of incubation program, you can reach out to your angel funding organization who will be able to guide you better.
Thanks. We have another question who's asking, is AWS looking to have a node in West Africa?
Sorry.
Uh, the attendee is asking, is Amazon Web Services currently looking to have a node in Africa?
Okay, so we have been very forthright in terms of announcing the next set of regions. As of now, next set of regions that has been announced. I don't see Africa at this point of time. We have Hong Kong, we have Sweden, we have Paris, we have in Bahrain. So the Middle East region will be operational end of 2018. I'm sure looking at the potential of Africa, I can say vouch that because I also worked in Africa. I can say that it's got a great potential. But whenever Amazon decides to launch an infrastructure, it sees the viability as well as the long-term customer impact in terms of providing a consistent service which is available across the globe. I'm sure they are evaluating, but we don't have any definite information as to when it's going to be announced. But I can always take back your feedback to the team and ask them, of some customers expressing the interest to have a node as and when it is ready.
Okay, Krishnan.
Okay.
So the next question says, if someone is running a small software company and is dealing in offline desktop application, can they use your services?
Yeah, so I did not project the list of services or the huge 100 plus services that I have. We have many services which are also around the business collaboration or the business productivity in terms of uh, whether it is you know we have a lot of these voice collaboration tools as well as document similar to the shared documents like service like work docs or workspace, which is a VDI service. So we have a lot of services for that, as well as we have services for doing analytics, we have services for doing, so the entire platform is very wide. Happy to take down your specific questions. So is it possible that the person who asked the question can send me a mail? I'll be able to address that one to one.
Okay, so the next question says, people believe AWS cloud is for bigger organizations. So would you share your opinion on whether it is a myth or a general opinion?
It's a huge myth. I would say that we have organizations who have even consuming $1, and we have organizations who are spending millions of dollars. And AWS as an organization doesn't differentiate. Obviously, you have a tier-based pricing, but the benefits, some of the features that we make it available, we don't make it available only for a specific customer. For example, if we bring in a new feature, it's available across all customers. So we don't differentiate. As well as I think it is we also spend a lot of time, we invest a lot of time in training, we invest a lot of time in educating the customers through some of the events like such as this. We also do a lot of summit. We have a summit in India next year. I don't have the dates. It's going to be around May, and we're going to have events across the country, and we keep doing a lot of plenty of events across the country. So keep follow our Twitter handle as well as a lot of our social media sites to make sure you are able to get those information, as well as aws.amazon.com is another place where you can get information. So we spend a lot of time educating customers. So we do understand the challenges of an organization which is trying to scale up, and we really handhold them at every stages of their journey.
Thank you so much, Krishnan. So since our next session begins in next 5 minutes, I'll
Yeah.
have to take it over from here. We do have some more couple of questions, and I'll be there to drop you an email with all of them so that they can be taken separately at your end. Okay, so thank you so much for your time and for this wonderful session with us, for sharing your experiences and your thoughts about it. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, and everybody have a nice day. Thank you very much.